Mozart had it. Beethoven probably had it. Most musicians agree that even though they'd had no formal musical training, Jimi Hendrix and Ella Fitzgerald probably had it. I am talking about absolute pitch, the amazing ability of some musicians to name any pitch they hear. As it happens, I have it too, and have often wondered why every note has its own distinct character, like a flavor or a smell. Musicians, psychologists, and neuroscientists have struggled for decades to work out what causes absolute pitch and whether it really does contribute to exceptional musicianship. Now they are finally coming up with some answers, with numerous studies suggesting that brains like mine are wired in a different way. It turns out that almost everyone may have had the potential of absolute pitch at the start of their lives, pointing to the surprising possibility that many more may be able to learn the skill. At least one thing is certain: the secret to absolute or perfect pitch doesn't lie in the ear. Assuming no hearing problems, everyone's ears pick up the same sounds. That means the difference must lie in the brain, somehow allowing people with absolute pitch to recognize that a sound with a frequency of 440 Hz is an A in the same way that we all consider light of 660 terahertz to be blue. Most people, including many trained musicians, can't make this connection, and instead focus on the relationships between the notes, whether they are higher or lower than one another. This is called relative pitch. A good singer might be able to give you an E if you played them a C, for example, since they know it is 2 whole tones higher. But if you ask them to sing an E without the guidance of a starting note, then they would struggle. Interestingly, the complex nature of absolute pitch suggests that many other environmental factors, besides early music training, may also play an important role in developing the sense of pitch. If we understand these, we may find ways to train more people to have the ability. One of the chief candidates for such a factor is a child's first language. Deanna Deutsch, a psychologist at the University of California, San Diego, has found that absolute pitch appears to be more common in people who grow up speaking tonal languages such as those spoken in China, where the meaning of a word depends on the pitch of the sound. Speakers of non-tone languages such as English, who do not have the opportunity to associate pitches with meaningful words in infancy, are at a disadvantage, she says. The mechanism behind this link isn't clear, but Deutsch thinks that early exposure to a tonal language encourages children to develop the necessary mental machinery that links words to pitch. Not everyone is convinced, however, with skeptics pointing out that these languages tend to rely on relative rather than absolute pitch. Fortunately, there may be another, easier way to encourage the brain's language centers to make the necessary connections between a note's pitch and its name. A team of Italian scientists recently took a close look at the kinds of mistakes musicians without absolute pitch make when naming tones using the solfeggio notation do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, as sung in the movie The Sound of Music. They found that these musicians are much more likely to mistake 2 tones if their names have the same vowel sound, the part that is often prolonged when singing a note. Do, C, and Sol, G were confused roughly 50% of the time, for example, while Re, D, and La, A, were confused in less than 20% of the trials. The confusion may be even greater when musicians use the standard letter notation in the English-speaking world, C, D, E, etc., in which 5 notes all have the same E vowel sound.